Here on Main Street in old Chinatown, a flickering sign of the Old East. Standing for over a century, the Pekin Noodle Parlor remains the oldest continuously running Chinese restaurant in America, and one of the last in Butte.
How many Chinese restaurants were there, and how many are there now?
There was at least a dozen in its height, but now there's only one on Main Street and two your traditional Chinese Asian buffet.
Jerry Tam is the fourth generation to own this living monument to Chinese American history.
First of all, Pekin. Tell me about the history of the name.
The name originally came from Peking, China, but...
Which is now known as Beijing.
Correct. And the joke is, my father created this wonderful neon marquee sign, and he said the G wouldn't fit. So we're known as the Pekin.
That's amazing.
The story of Pekin traces back to Tam's great-great-grandfather and great-uncle, opening the restaurant on the second floor of a tobacco and gaming parlor in 1911.
So Hum Yao and my dad's great-grandfather came from the same village, and they partnered on this restaurant, and they brought many businesses into Butte. Chinese laundry, Chinese tea, all the gambling happened, the opium, and it all happened within the confines of this building. We had a mass influx of people, and the Chinese helped build the railroads coming through Montana. So that helped with building Chinatown and all these little chow-chow restaurants, including ours.
But Pekin's specialty, just like the sign says, Chop Suey, an Americanized kitchen sink of odds and ends.
So tell me, what's the signature recipe? Is it the chop suey, or is it?
So chop suey is, the definition is just tidbits. And so when the miners came in here at all hours of the morning, we were open basically 24 hours, we would run out of food. So the chefs in the chow-chows would just cut up anything, bean sprouts, celery, onions, just, you know, fillers. Cook it in its own vegetable gravy, and then serve it over fried chow mein noodles, and then serve it to the miners. Top with anything, any proteins, chicken, pork, beef, mushrooms, green peppers, onions, whatever they had. And that became an American staple, American chop suey.
All right, so we've got, I see, celery, bean sprouts.
Yeah.
What else?
Onion.
Onion, lots of onion.
I got a peek inside the making of the famous Pekin Chop Suey.
And now you're putting in cornstarch.
Yeah.
And that thickens it.
Jerry and his four sisters practically lived in the restaurant, watching their charismatic dad, Danny Wong, build a community.
Your dad, very much, was a pillar of the community.
He was a Butte, Montana guy. He sponsored all the sports teams. He sponsored anybody who had any, you know, before the GoFundMe. He was the original GoFundMe. He worked here until he was 85. He passed away when he was 86. But to know that he had the most incredible life, and he's done everything, but he didn't want to do it without his wife, so.
This is like stepping back in time. It's crazy.
2 stories below the dining room, artifacts from a bygone era.
This is 100-year-old Chinese china.
Yes.
Rooms filled with dusty pieces of Pekin's heyday, like this antique herbal cabinet.
So these are like the Chinese herbs.
This is Chinese herbs.
They're
and this
still
is from,
in there.
Giant jars of soy sauce, cooking supplies, dishes, and woks.
This is from the Korean War.
And original parlor games practically frozen in time.
roulette wheels.
Roulette wheels.
Today, Pekin draws tourists and locals alike.
Almond chicken and short ribs and shrimp fried rice.
Hearing that it's one of the oldest was surprising, but also really cool.
Always busy, carts filled with food rolling by its famed orange booths, a color Tam's father chose himself.
Oh my goodness.
The reason why this is Carnival Orange, but he called it Pink Salmon, is because he opened up a Bon Appetit magazine in the 80s. And they just said, this color whets the appetite of your customers. And the next day it went from lime green to orange. And everyone's like, what happened? He's like, it's in Bon Appetit magazine.
While Butte is no longer called the richest hill on earth, it is clear gold can still be found at the Pekin Noodle Parlor.